Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the Goldman Sachs 2026 outlook for the healthcare sector. They've put together a really detailed playbook, and we're going to walk through the key signals and themes that they think will define the year ahead.
So let's set the stage a little bit. For what felt like a really long time, almost 3 years, the healthcare sector was just stuck in the slow lane, consistently lagging behind the rest of the market. It really had a lot of investors wondering if a comeback was even in the cards.
And then, bam! As 2025 was wrapping up, the sector just came roaring back to life with a 12% surge. It almost completely closed that gap with the S&P 500. And you know what was fueling that comeback? One word: biopharma.
So, this comeback raises the big question, right? Was this just a blip, a flash in the pan, or is it the start of a much bigger trend for the year ahead? According to Goldman Sachs, it's the real deal, but you have to be selective. So the real question is, where is the smart money actually going in 2026?
Okay, let's dive into this. The core idea from Goldman Sachs is that this biopharma recovery isn't just going to continue, it's actually set to be one of the defining features of 2026. But, and this is a big but, this is not a buy everything kind of situation. You need a much more targeted, theme-based approach.
So, they've basically given us a roadmap, and it's built around 4 key investment themes. We're talking about finding companies where earnings are about to get a big upgrade, spotting the next wave of innovation, backing some promising smaller companies, and of course, riding the wave of mergers and acquisitions.
All right, theme number 1 is all about upward revisions, basically finding value where others might not see it yet. Take Eli Lilly, for example. They have a new obesity drug that Goldman thinks the market is seriously underestimating. Then you have Johnson & Johnson, which is just entering a period of major growth. And don't forget Merck, a company that was kind of an underdog in 2025, but is now primed for a big comeback thanks to its really strong pipeline.
And that leads us right into the second theme. And honestly, this might be the most exciting one. We're talking about pure innovation. We're in the middle of a genuine renaissance in research and development that could create massive new markets, literally from the ground up.
You know, after years of kind of slow, incremental progress, cardiology is having a huge moment. In 2026, we could see a brand new class of drugs that targets a hidden cardiovascular risk factor called LPA. We're also expecting big breakthroughs in safer blood thinners and new, easy-to-take oral therapies to lower cholesterol, which could be a game-changer for millions of people.
And then there's oncology. 2026 could be the year we see the next big leap forward in cancer treatment, moving beyond the therapies that have been the standard for years. We're talking about things like innovative new combination therapies, potential proof of concept for cancer vaccines, and these incredible smart bomb drugs called antibody-drug conjugates that can target cancer cells with pinpoint precision.
Okay, before we jump into the next theme, let's just bust some jargon really quick. When you hear analysts talking about SMID cap catalyst names, this is what they mean. They're these smaller, promising biotech companies that are often focused on just a few key drugs with some major news or clinical trial data right around the corner.
And here's the crucial point. For a while, taking a risk on these smaller companies just wasn't paying off, so the market got pretty shy. But that environment is really starting to change. The report highlights a few names here that are on the verge of what could be a totally transformative 2026, with huge clinical trial results that could send them absolutely soaring.
The final theme is mergers and acquisitions. And honestly, this chart just says it all. Big Pharma is sitting on an absolute mountain of cash. Just look at Johnson & Johnson alone. They have over $100 billion ready to go.
And when you add it all up, we're talking about roughly $600 billion in balance sheet capacity across large-cap biopharma. And these companies have been very clear about what they're looking for. They're hunting for those innovative assets in really high-growth areas.
So that's the bullish case for biopharma. But what about the rest of the healthcare sector? Well, the outlook there is a little more mixed. It's a more nuanced picture.
Now, what's really interesting here is the contrast. You've got medtech, think medical devices, where growth is actually expected to slow down. But on the other hand, you have the life science tool sector. These are the companies that make the picks and shovels for R&D, and they're set for a rebound, benefiting directly from all that new spending in biopharma.
Okay, now let's zoom out a bit to 2 critical external factors, 2 wild cards, really, that could shape the entire healthcare landscape.
First up, China is rapidly evolving. It's not just a source of cost-effective assets anymore. China is becoming a genuine hub of global drug innovation, creating some really complex and novel therapies that are competing on the world stage.
And second, U.S. policy remains a major variable.
The upcoming midterm elections could influence everything from tariffs on pharmaceuticals to the subsidies for ACA health plans. It just creates a lot of uncertainty.
So after covering all that ground, what's the single most important takeaway from this entire outlook? What's the bottom line?
The crucial point is this: broad bets on the entire healthcare sector are out. The days of just buying a healthcare index and calling it a day are over. Success in 2026 is going to require focusing on these very specific, powerful trends we've talked about, especially within biopharma.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. We've got innovation accelerating, huge amounts of cash ready for M&A, and these big external pressures all converging at once. So the question for 2026 isn't if the healthcare sector will change, but which of these powerful forces is going to change it the most.